There are some days of our lives twists that create temporary chaos, and then there are the ones that feel like they could destroy a marriage before it ever truly had the chance to become stable. And that may be exactly what is happening to Alex and Stephanie now. Because this is no longer just a story about newlyweds facing a few emotional bumps. This is starting to look like a marriage being crushed under the weight of terrible timing, unresolved trauma, and consequences from the past that are suddenly becoming impossible to ignore. Ever since Alex and Stephanie got married, their relationship has felt cursed by instability. Instead of enjoying that romantic honeymoon phase, they have been pulled into one emotional disaster after another. Stephanie's kidnapping left deep psychological scars, and those scars are clearly not fading just because time has passed. If anything, they may be growing more dangerous because they are interfering with her ability to reconnect with her own husband. That is what makes this story feel so painful already. Alex wants to help. He wants to be the man Stephanie can lean on. He wants to repair what has been damaged. But wanting to be someone's safe place is very different from actually becoming that safe place in the moment they need it most. And right now, Stephanie may no longer feel that safety with Alex at all. Because once emotional trust starts slipping inside a marriage, every new crisis hits harder. Every misunderstanding feels heavier. Every outside complication suddenly has more power than it should. And unfortunately for Alex and Stephanie, an even bigger complication may be about to hit them at exactly the worst possible moment. That is where this story stops being sad and starts becoming explosive. Before Joy even steps back into Salem, Alex and Stephanie's marriage already feels dangerously unstable. And that is what makes this story more than just another baby shock setup. Stephanie is not simply going through a difficult emotional period. She is still carrying the psychological damage of everything she has endured, and that pain seems to be changing the way she connects to the people around her, especially Alex. What they are facing now is not ordinary newlywed tension. It feels more like a slow emotional shutdown. Because Alex is not dealing with a wife who is merely upset, distant, or frustrated. He may be dealing with someone who no longer has the emotional strength to function inside the marriage the way she wants to. Stephanie may love him, but love is not the same as capacity. And right now, her capacity looks dangerously low. The real issue may not be romance. The real issue is emotional refuge. If Stephanie finds it easier to confide in Jeremy than in her own husband, that changes the balance of the marriage in a very serious way. It means Alex is no longer the person she naturally turns to for relief, understanding, or calm. And once that emotional role starts shifting elsewhere, the marriage can begin weakening from the inside out. That also explains why Alex's efforts may keep backfiring. The more he tries to fix things, the more Stephanie may feel pressured to respond in a way she simply cannot right now. What Alex sees as reaching for her, Stephanie may experience as emotional weight. And if that pattern continues, Alex may not just fail to bring her closer. He may unintentionally push her further away. So by the time Joy's secret re-enters the picture, this marriage may already be surviving on emotional fumes. Which means the real danger is not that the baby secret creates the first crack. It is that it hits when the foundation is already starting to give way. Now the story becomes far more dangerous. Because Joy's return is not arriving at a time when Alex and Stephanie are strong enough to absorb a shock. It may be arriving at the precise moment when Stephanie is least able to handle one more emotional blow. And that is why this twist has the potential to do real damage. A baby reveal on Days of Our Lives is never just about surprise. It instantly creates pressure, responsibility, divided loyalties, and a future that can no longer be ignored. If Joy comes back with Alex's child, then Alex is no longer just a husband trying to save his marriage. He may suddenly become a father facing obligations that will demand immediate attention. For Stephanie, that could feel overwhelming in the deepest possible way. Because this would not simply be bad news. It would be life-altering news dropped into a moment when she is already emotionally stretched to the limit. She is still trying to recover. She is still struggling to feel stable. She is still trying to make sense of a marriage that no longer feels safe or easy. Then suddenly, she may be expected to process the fact that Alex's past has returned in the form of a child. It is the kind of reveal that can make a person feel like their entire future is being rewritten without their consent. And that may be what makes Joy's comeback so devastating. Stephanie may not see this as one problem too many in a simple, practical sense. She may see it as proof that her life has become unrecognizable. Instead of moving forward with Alex, she may feel pulled into a completely different reality. One filled with baggage, obligation, and emotional demands she is nowhere near ready to take on. So the real suspense here is not whether Stephanie will be shocked. Of course she will. The deeper question is whether this secret baby becomes the moment when shock turns into surrender. When Stephanie stops trying to hold everything together because there is simply nothing left in her to give. What makes this storyline especially compelling is that Alex may not actually be guilty in the way soap characters usually are. He is not hiding an ongoing affair. He is not knowingly betraying Stephanie in the present. In fact, he may be blindsided by Joy's return just as much as everyone else. But in a story like this, innocence does not erase consequences. Because Stephanie may not judge this based on timeline or intent. She may judge it based on emotional reality. From her perspective, while she is barely managing her own pain, Alex's past is suddenly crashing into their marriage with massive consequences. Whether he knew or not may matter logically, but emotionally, it may not be enough to soften the blow. If he immediately steps up for the child, Stephanie may see that as confirmation that she is no longer his first priority at the moment she needs him most. But if he delays or hesitates because he is trying to hold on to his marriage, then he risks looking weak, selfish, or irresponsible. Either choice creates damage. Either choice costs him trust somewhere. This is not a scandal built around one obvious villain. It is a crisis built around impossible emotional math. Alex may genuinely want to do right by Stephanie and by the child, but those two responsibilities may begin pulling him in opposite directions almost immediately. The more he tries to be fair to one side, the more the other side may feel hurt. Because Alex may be telling the truth. He may be trying his best. He may even be acting out of love. But none of that guarantees Stephanie will be able to live with what Joy's return means. And if she cannot, then Alex may discover the cruelest truth of all. Sometimes a man can be innocent in intention, and still watch his marriage collapse under the weight of the consequences. This is where the story could become far more painful than a typical baby scandal. Because Stephanie may not decide to walk away out of rage, jealousy, or revenge. Her choice may come from a much sadder place than that. She may still love Alex deeply and still believe he never meant to hurt her. But love does not always mean a person has the strength to stay. If Stephanie starts talking about divorce, it may not be because one shocking revelation suddenly changed everything overnight. It may be because that revelation lands on top of pain that has already been building for weeks. The trauma, the distance, the emotional exhaustion, the failed attempts to reconnect, all of it may leave her feeling like this marriage has become one more thing she cannot carry. Instead of rejecting Alex, Stephanie may be trying to protect what is left of herself. She may look at the baby situation and realize that stepping into that reality would require emotional energy, patience, and stability she simply does not have right now. Becoming part of Alex's new responsibility would not just be difficult. It could feel impossible. Because Stephanie may not be saying, "I don't want you." She may be saying, "I can't survive this." That is a much more tragic kind of breakup, because it leaves room for love to still exist while hope quietly disappears. If the show takes that route, divorce would not feel like a dramatic impulse. It would feel like the final result of too much pressure hitting one wounded person at once. That is what makes the next stage of this story even more dangerous. Because once Stephanie starts seeing escape as survival, Joy's return may stop being just a complication, and start becoming the force that permanently changes everyone's future. If Joy comes back with Alex's child, she does more than reopen the past. She changes the shape of the present. And that is where this storyline becomes especially volatile. Up until now, Alex and Stephanie's problems have largely been emotional. Pain, distance, missed connections, and unresolved trauma have been eating away at the marriage from the inside. But Joy's return could turn all of that into something much more concrete. Suddenly, this is not just about feelings. It becomes about responsibilities, priorities, and a future that may no longer belong to Alex and Stephanie alone. That changes everything. Alex would no longer be just a husband trying to save his relationship. He could become a father overnight, with obligations that demand immediate action. Stephanie would no longer be just a wife trying to recover. She could be pushed into a situation where she is expected to absorb another woman's place in Alex's life, another child's needs, and a family structure she never agreed to build. And Joy herself could make it even more explosive, depending on how she returns. If she hid the pregnancy and stayed away until now, then her comeback may not be calm or gentle. It could come with urgency. It could come with expectation. It could even come with a quiet sense of accusation, as if Alex now has a debt to pay, whether he is ready or not. Because from her point of view, the future may start changing around her before she has even had time to process the truth. Decisions may need to be made. Loyalties may need to be shown. Alex may feel compelled to step up fast. And while that may be understandable, Stephanie could experience it as emotional displacement, as if her pain is being pushed aside to make room for a crisis she never created. Not because the feelings were fake, and not because anyone stopped caring, but because the circumstances may become too large for the relationship to contain. Love can survive many things on a soap. But when timing, trauma, guilt, and responsibility all collide at once, even love can start to look frighteningly fragile. And that is what brings the story to its most important question. At the end of the day, the biggest shock here may not be that Alex has a child with Joy. The deeper shock may be what that truth exposes. Because this baby's secret has the potential to strip away every illusion Alex and Stephanie may still be holding onto. It could force them to confront a reality they have been avoiding. This marriage may have been in more serious trouble long before Joy ever returned. The secret baby may not create all the damage. It may simply reveal how much damage was already there. The trauma was already reshaping Stephanie. Alex was already struggling to reach her. The emotional gap between them was already widening. Joy's child may simply be the moment when all those quiet fractures become impossible to ignore. What once looked like a marriage under pressure could suddenly look like a marriage that has been slowly unraveling for a long time. Because then the suspense is no longer just about the reveal itself. It becomes about what remains after the shock passes. Can Alex and Stephanie rebuild trust when the truth has exposed how unstable they already were? Can Stephanie find enough emotional strength to separate her pain from Alex's intentions? Can Alex step up for a child without losing the woman he married? Or is this the moment when both of them finally realize they have been trying to save something that was already collapsing beneath them? It is not only scandal. It is emotional pressure applied at the weakest possible point. It tests whether love can survive when life becomes more complicated than either person is equipped to handle. And in a situation like this, the cruelest possibility is not that the secret comes out. It is that the truth arrives too late to save anything. So when Alex's baby's secret finally explodes, the real fallout may not be the shock that hits Salem. It may be the devastating realization that Stephanie's heartbreak was building long before the reveal, and that this may be the moment it turns final.